When investigators entered Friedrich Paulus's Dresden mansion after his death, they expected medals and maps. Instead, they found hidden rooms, sealed letters, and mysterious files, clues to a far darker story. The Stasi had locked it away, the Soviets erased the records, and for decades, no one asked why. The winter of 1943 had turned Stalingrad into a graveyard. The Sixth Army, trapped and starving, became a monument to defeat. At the center was Paulus, once a symbol of German precision, now facing chaos he could not control. Hitler demanded the city be held at all costs. On January 30th, 1943, he promoted Paulus to Field Marshal, a title meant to say, die with honor or die a coward. The next day, Paulus surrendered, the highest-ranking German officer ever captured alive. The Soviets saw not humiliation, but opportunity. In captivity, Paulus was studied, challenged, and slowly reshaped. By 1946, at the Nuremberg trials, the once loyal servant of Hitler testified for the Allies, his calm words carrying the weight of betrayal and survival. After Stalin's death, Paulus returned to Dresden, housed in a villa under Stasi surveillance. Former comrades shunned him, loyalists called him a traitor, and Western observers wondered what secrets he held. When he died in 1957, investigators found not just documents, but traces of a life entwined with the secrets of two regimes, a mystery still whispered in the quiet walls of his mansion. Paulus spoke methodically at Nuremberg, detailing German operations in Stalingrad and Hitler's interference. He dismissed Göring's promises as fantasy and described Hitler with chilling detachment. His testimony shocked the Allies and enraged surviving Wehrmacht officers, who called him Stalin's puppet. Paulus never defended himself, later admitting, "I served a criminal regime. I bear my part of the guilt." After the trials, he was not released. Relocated to a guarded residence near Moscow, he lived under constant surveillance. Letters were monitored, and his family in West Germany was unreachable. He spent long hours reflecting, writing military analyses for Soviet staff, or simply staring out the window. His notes, sketches, and memoranda from the war years later became points of historical interest. In 1953, Stalin's death changed everything. The new Soviet leadership sought to appear humane, repatriating select German prisoners. Paulus was sent not to West Germany, but to East Germany, to Dresden, a city still scarred by firebombing. There, in a villa on Preußstraße 10, he became a living symbol of conversion, a decorated general who had abandoned fascism under watchful eyes. The villa, nicknamed Object Terrace by the Stasi, was wired and monitored. Phones were tapped, the garden watched, and even the gardener reported to the state. Few dared to visit. Former comrades avoided him, and journalists were denied entry. Behind the gates, Paulus maintained soldierly routines, rising early, keeping meticulous notes, and walking alone along the Elbe, a figure both respected and feared. He gave occasional lectures warning against fascism, but some suspected he was merely repeating lines handed to him. The Soviets had spent a decade shaping him into a symbol, yet in Dresden, he was too compromised to celebrate and too valuable to discard. Officially, he was retired, but the story of his captivity was far from over. Unofficially, Paulus was a prisoner in plain sight. The villa on Preußstraße 10 was spacious but sparse, adorned with a few Soviet gifts, a ceremonial saber, a Stalin portrait, a model of Stalingrad. He spent hours in his upper-floor study writing letters rarely sent, while the Stasi monitored every call, visitor, and even private conversation. Microphones were hidden in lamps and furniture. Agents were stationed around the clock with coded logs kept in the cellar. Outwardly calm, Paulus maintained soldierly routines. He read military history, collected maps, and walked alone along the Elbe. Whispers circulated that he had hidden personal notes and wartime records, and possibly maintained private correspondence with Soviet officers that contradicted his public statements. When he died in 1957, his obituary was brief and respectful, noting his embrace of peace while omitting Stalingrad and years of surveillance. The villa was sealed, but the Stasi soon arrived under the pretext of cataloging his belongings. Unofficially, they were searching for secrets. In the upstairs study, they discovered a narrow locked door hidden behind a sliding panel. Inside, they found boxes of handwritten notes, maps, and sealed envelopes marked with Soviet insignia. Some documents dated to 1945, others later. There were files on surrendered German officers, letters to Soviet officials and family, drafts of undelivered speeches, and one statement denouncing both Hitler and Stalin. The Field Marshal's papers, Die Unterlagen der Feldmarschalls, were confiscated and sealed in Berlin archives, never made public. Rumors suggested Paulus had secretly corresponded with Soviet generals, kept private reflections contradicting official accounts, and possibly held documents implicating Soviet officers in wartime atrocities. Even in death, his story remained a guarded mystery. After his death, the official inventory was redacted, officers reassigned, and all references to his file vanished. Only a few insiders reportedly saw the contents, which remain classified. When GDR archives opened, historians found only vague references to withheld personal material dated 1957, the year Paulus died. Investigators discovered a hidden room in his Dresden villa, sealed letters and documents never meant to be seen. For a man who surrendered an army, perhaps his final act was surrendering his truth. Officially, the Stasi found only personal items, but secrecy, sealed reports, and the quiet transfer of boxes to Berlin suggested otherwise. Whispers hinted at notes contradicting Soviet accounts of Stalingrad, coded letters with prisoners, and an envelope marked "not to be opened," allegedly naming officers involved in wartime conspiracies. After the Berlin Wall fell, his file was missing. Some believed the documents went to Moscow. Others thought they were destroyed. Theories include a secret memoir, hidden Soviet files, or an exaggerated story. The villa was sold, object terrace erased from records, and one question remains. If there was nothing to hide, why bury it? Today, the villa still stands, stately and unmarked. Residents recall nighttime removals and guards at the gates. The Paulus collection never surfaced, leaving historians to wonder if it contained private reflections on Hitler and Stalin, material that could have been explosive during the Cold War. If so, their disappearance was no accident. Yet perhaps the true mystery isn't what was taken from the villa, but what remained. Its walls, once wired with microphones and cameras, now belong to ordinary residents, living among rooms that once held a man haunted by 2 regimes, 2 betrayals, and an unfinished confession. Friedrich Paulus died believing he could control the end of his own story. History had other plans. His name remains bound to Stalingrad, his conscience buried in secrecy, and his home remembered as the place where truth went quiet. Whatever was hidden inside that mansion, one thing is certain: the silence that followed still echoes through Dresden's hills. What could have been so dangerous in Paulus's hidden room that both East Germany and the Soviets buried it for decades?